Honorable Presiding Member, may I begin my speech by wishing this country some prosperity, at least with the advent of this holy month of Ramadan, which has started from today. Today happens to be a Friday and all of us have got to rush to our Jummah prayers as well. This IMF program, Mr. Presiding Member, is the 17th program that this country is entering into. Previously, 16 times we have gone for either an extended fund facility or a structural adjustment program of the IMF. Having been 16 times earlier engaged with the IMF, this exercise of being in this merry-go-round, of going for reforms, thereafter again regressing from the reforms, then once again running in a crisis situation back to the IMF asking for their facilities, has been, as I said, a merry-go-round. Now we are once again, finally with this 17th attempt, will we succeed, is a question. Now, we have always been involved in some cosmetic compliance and have, whenever crisis abates, we have been used to going back to business as usual. Now, we cannot afford to do this, regressing from our undertakings anymore. We have gone to the rock bottom. A country had been declared bankrupt. So with such an ignominy, we cannot afford once again to regress from the reform path that we have set ourselves. Way back in September, the staff level agreement was reached. From the staff level agreement up to the board approval, there had been 200 days within which we could have done many things. I even fault the IMF for not doing enough to bring substantial pressure to achieve more than what we have achieved up to now. Whatever that government has chosen to do with their discredited majority in parliament, with an experienced politician as the Prime Minister, or rather as the President, we had managed to use the jackboots of our armed forces and the police to prevent agitations, demonstrations, thwart strikes, and have managed to heap more hardship on the working population in this country. With a 100,000 threshold for taxable income, we have broadened our tax net that we say. But the IMF program speaks about wealth tax, property tax, all of which we are now putting off for 225 and beyond. So we are leaving the rich class out of this and giving them some more breathing space. Now this is what is being contested by the working population in this country. Now we must remember that this governance diagnostic exercise that the IMF is trying to undertake for the first time in an Asian country is a very ambitious initiative. But are we prepared to be truthfully engaging in this exercise? Now the President gave us an undertaking that he is going to bring the new anti-corruption legislation very soon to Parliament. Anti-corruption legislation alone won't do, but that legislation must have provision for non-conviction based property seizure arrangements. Otherwise, if we go to the courts and try to get warrants or to have accounts of all the monies that have been stacked away outside the country, it's not going to happen. So now what have we done? There was one of the senior executives of the Sri Lankan Airlines who was convicted in a British court. Then we had one of our diplomats in United States. He was convicted for a similar offense. Right? Have we at least filed any action in our local courts? No. So what are we talking about? Anti-corruption initiatives in the country. So therefore, there's much to be done. Now today, the papers say, now we have lined up various state-owned enterprises to be sold. A restructuring unit under the Ministry of Finance have been set up. Sri Lankan Airlines, including Sri Lankan Catering Limited. Honorable Minister is here. So, now Sri Lankan Airlines, Sri Lankan Catering of course might fetch something, but Sri Lankan Airlines may not fetch even 50 cents on a dollar, the way our airline has been run down. Right? But better late than never. Let us make sure that at least our landing rights to important destinations are protected. At least let us make sure that our expatriate population who are sending dollars to this country have proper connections to Colombo and the capitals where they are working in the Middle East and beyond. Let us ensure that those destinations from which large numbers of tourists are coming to this country is intact, and then give it over to somebody to run this. Better late than never, but only thing is we cannot expect much, not even 50 cents on a dollar, as I told you. Honorable Minister is much aware of this. Of course, he is trying to do various things, but I am told that whatever little reform that he did, now the Batticaloa runway, they say now it's the license to land international flights is to be cancelled by Civil Aviation Authority. So, our domestic airports are in a mess, and we have Mattala Airport, another ambitious project which is a virtual white elephant. Hambantota port has not been used to its potential. So we have such difficulties that we are facing. Then we have Sri Lanka Telecom and Sri Lanka Insurance Corporation. Then we have Hotel Developers Lanka Limited. Then we have the Hyatt Regency, Litrogas Limited, Litrogas Terminals, and Lanka Hospitals. There was much a hullabaloo in this chamber a day or two ago about the cabinet decision to list, or rather the decision to sell telecom shares and Lanka Hospital shares. Right? In my opinion, you know, IMF should have insisted all of this be done before they take the board decision. That is, I'll go as far as that. I don't subscribe to the view. Some in this side of the aisle talks about in this house about why sell the profitable ones. Those are the low-hanging fruit. Those are the ones that we can easily sell right away. Let us sell the at least bridge. At least create some primary balance in our books. So this is what is necessary for us to do. Let us not regress from the reform path once again. 16 times we have pulled wool over the eyes of the IMF. IMF also must be faulted for not putting enough pressure. They should have put substantial pressure to do much more than what has already been done. That is my opinion. Now the Central Bank Act, a new act, right? That's again pulling wool over the eyes of the IMF, in my opinion. Political interference is to be abolished in the running of the affairs of the central bank. Various people have already looked at the new act. Right? What is the new act going to do? Now we are going to pack the two important decision-making bodies. Instead of the monetary board, they are to create two different entities, one governing board and the other. Yes. So let us see that we have a situation where the Minister of Finance recommends the governor and the other members of the governing board as well as the monetary policy board. Now, the finance minister recommends to the president. So see the current situation. Ranil Wickremesinghe recommends to Ranil Wickremesinghe. So is that independence? So finance minister is Ranil Wickremesinghe. The president is Ranil Wickremesinghe. So Ranil Wickremesinghe recommends to Ranil Wickremesinghe. And Ranil Wickremesinghe puts it on to the Constitutional Council, which is again having a majority of the discredited government benches being there. So that's again a foregone conclusion. Those names get approved. Then finally, we have another setup where political manipulation of the central bank could take place. Right? There are various other matters which I would like to deal with it when the bill comes to this House. I think the opposition must move some amendments to make sure that this exercise of bringing in a new Central Bank Act will not end up. Because, I mean, to the credit of the President, Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, I must say, 2 previous occasions when he wanted to introduce the new Central Bank Act was also during his tenure. Other governments didn't even care because they wanted to control the central bank. But he did twice earlier, once in 2004 and subsequently once again in 2016. This attempt was made, but then it didn't come to fruition because by the time we got it past the cabinet, elections were announced. So having said that, Mr. Presiding Member, let us make sure that at least now let us not regress from the reform path that we have now been set by the IMF. And IMF too must take some responsibility for not use their bargaining power before the board decision is taken to see that more of the assets are sold and that things are made much easier for the people of this country rather than taxing the poor people, the working class in this country, and allowing the capitalists to get away from their obligations. Thank you.